Welcome to the Franchise Masters podcast, where aspiring entrepreneurs learn what it takes to find, buy, and build successful franchise businesses. My name is Drew Carpenito, and I'm your host as we dive into these fascinating behind-the-scenes stories of people who have used surprising franchises to create massive success. I'm glad you're here. Let's dig in. Welcome to the Franchise Masters podcast. I'm excited to be joined by someone who I just recently met and have gotten to know better. Ben Crawford, who is a multi-unit franchise owner with the Joint Chiropractic, which has been an interesting franchise over the years. So, Ben, welcome. Look forward to getting to know you better and learn a little bit more about your story. So, would love to kick it off. How you got into the Joint, what you were doing before the Joint, why the Joint, why franchise ownership, all that good stuff. Where'd your journey start?
Well, I just had this lunch meeting with a guy and I just told the whole story. So I'll kind of rinse and repeat this on how did I find the Joint? So I have a good friend of mine. His name is Steve Colmar, and Steve's got a brother named Craig Colmar, and it was Steve and Craig who acquired the business, the Joint Chiropractic. It was the Joint, the chiropractic place at the time. And they acquired this asset from a guy named Dr. Fred over in Atlanta. And this was in 2010 or 11. And Steve and I have known each other since I graduated from undergrad. I mean, a long time ago. And we've been in and out of several businesses together. And Steve had told me that he was going to acquire a chiropractic franchise, and he asked me if I wanted any part of it. And I said, no, I don't believe in chiropractic. I want nothing to do with it. Steve's kind of a hippie guy, one of the smartest guys I know, but he's kind of holistic. So this fit right into his wheelhouse. And I said no. And that was early 2011. So Steve goes out and he hires John Linesio of Massage Envy, recruits him. Okay. John comes over with his team. I'm watching this from the outside going, who's this John guy? And Steve goes, oh, that's John Linesio. He took a concept called massage that was at a super high end and a very low end, and he made a middle market deal, and he made it membership based, and he changed and pivoted an entire market, and we plan on doing that for chiropractic. I went, oh, so this is a membership deal, Steve? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay, I'm in. So I bought 3 licenses. It was the first 3 licenses for the city of Houston back in late 2011. And I was the first one to open the Joint, the chiropractic place. It was the River Oaks location here in the Houston market. And people were asking me, I go, what are you doing, Crawford? Are you opening up medical marijuana? I said, no, I'm opening up the Joint, the chiropractic place. And landlords kind of looked at us like we were weird, like, we never heard of you guys. Is this we don't want anything to do with dope. We said, no, this is chiropractic. And then they would throw out at us, well, the number one business to fail for leases is chiropractic clinics. We want nothing to do with you. Huh. So we had all these hurdles we had to overcome, initially to get leases signed up and to get the general public to understand who we were and what we were trying to solve. And that was low back pain and putting it into a routine adjustment that happens once a week for a membership fee of $49. That was our model, 7 days a week. We had great hours. And lo and behold, we opened the first one, we opened the second one, opened the third one, and then another owner came in and bought a 5-pack, and they opened up 5 locations. Another owner bought 3-pack and opened up 3 of those. And then about 2013 or 14, I had a chance to acquire 5 at once from the owner who got into it. And this was an old European wax guy, and I think a Massage Envy guy as well. He just wanted out. So I acquired those 5. And now we're at 8. And so we've slowly worked our way up in terms of number of units, but it is a great cash flow machine. I've never seen anything like it. So to make what I make on a monthly basis from the cash flow, my basically my EBITDA, I'd have to have 20 million of liquidity earning 5% on an annualized basis to make the income I make today from an investment that is a lot less than $20 million.
Yeah.
So it's a great
Fascinating.
concept. So I've watched 3 management teams come through the cycle here. The founding management team, John and his team, and their primary goal was to sell as many franchises and as many RD licenses as they could across the country. Well, who better to do that than John and his team, because they just came off a massive home run with Massage Envy.
Right.
So they, in their hip pocket, they had all the RD guys, and they had a lot of multi-unit owners ready to go do it again. Rinse and repeat with John in another concept. So John did his deal. Then we had another management team come on, and they were from Starbucks. And these Starbucks guys ran North America for Starbucks, and they were opening a Starbucks one a day when they had their huge growth rate. They were on every street corner. And it was John and David. And John and David took the company public, and they raised $30 to $40 million.
Okay.
And then the new management team, Peter Holt and his group, they came on board, and Peter's really stabilized the brand. And his stated objective to the investor group, which is really the shareholders, is we're going to get to 1,000 units by a certain time, and then 2,000 units over the next, I don't know if it's 10 or 15 years, but he's going to get it there. So Peter's got a good team in place, and I've been along for the ride from day one, and it's been a ride.
It sounds like it. Holy moly. And did you have any idea the ride was going to be like what it's been when you signed on?
No, because remember, I was the first one to open. So all these models and projections we had about how many new patients were going to walk in the front door on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis, what our throughput was going to be with each chiropractor, how many can a chiropractor adjust in one day? We put all this into these great formulas, and I had a lot of my buddies who were in the financial game look at it, and they were like,
Yeah.
they're like, this will never work, Yeah, good luck, Crawford.
Yeah, and here you are.
Lo and behold, it worked. And now all those guys are like, hey, Crawford, can we partner with you and do some more clinics with you? I'm like, no, you can't, because now we can just cash flow these things on our own. But I never really understood the power of a membership, the recurring membership, because our lifetime value on per patient is significant, and our customer acquisition cost, because we're doing all digital now, is fairly low.
Yeah.
So there's a big spread there, and we have good margins. But
your help, it's sticky. Like, you're helping people live pain-free, which is a powerful need.
It's somewhat addictive. And, because when you do the adjustment, there is some endorphin release that happens, and people get a high for a little bit, and they also get out of back pain, and they're able to live their life. They're able to sleep. They're able to go to work. They're able to perform their recreational task or play with their kids, which without that weekly adjustment, that routine chiropractic care, they can't, or they're on meds, or they're on, constant Advil. And we provide them a relatively cost-effective mechanism for $79 a month. They can come in and get adjusted 7 days a week, really on their schedule. No appointments are needed. They come in, they swipe in. There could be a little wait, maybe 5 minutes, but next thing you know, they're in the back. It's open bay. We have 3 adjusting tables. And we have clinics where we run 3 chiropractors because we run 150 adjustments a day.
Wow. So
that's a 3-ring circus in that clinic. We have to have 2 front desk associates up front directing traffic. It's so busy. And we have other clinics that run 30 to 50 adjustments a day.
Yeah.
So it's a great value for the end user. The financial reward, I never ever thought, it's going to be where it is today.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that I spend on the business today is nowhere close to what I did when we originally birthed the first 3 units. I was hands-on. we were in the clinics. My wife and I were in the clinics all the time because we hired the chiropractors, we hired the front desk staff, we trained them, we built a lot of systems and internal processes, best practices that are used today in the joint system. A lot of the other people that have come in behind us as franchisees have also added a lot of depth to the operational manuals that we have in places today, operational processes that we have today, accountability processes that we have. Those have all been built by people that have come in behind me as well. So again, when we all lock arms and walk forward together as a franchise group, and that's the power of a franchise group, and that's what John Lee and SEO used to tell us early on. A lot of the internal processes of day-to-day operations as we build a brand won't come from us as a franchisor. They come from the power of having a lot of independent owners that have multiple units, identifying best practices as a group and adopting that as a group.
So they embraced it. They embraced the feedback and the innovation.
Oh yeah,
from the front lines, from the trenches.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I tell you, Peter Holt's team, George, as the chief operating officer, Jorge, has done a great job helping standardize and implement a system-wide rollout of best practices, KPIs. Even in the state of Texas, we have a great regional developer who has a great operations team that is really, really hitting their stride today to make sure quarterly that all the franchises are doing everything they possibly can do to deliver a great service to the client first. And if we do that right, the economics will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Huh. So what were you doing before the Joint? What's your background?
Well, from 2000 to 2009 or 10, I built a company called Crawford Renovation Group. And that was a firm that started off as what we call design build residential renovation company. So in 2000, we did $1 million in revenue. Oh yeah, hey, we hit it. Yeah. 2001, we did 3. 2002, we hit 5. By the time we got to 2008, we were at 20 to 22 million. Headcount over 200 people on headcount. We were running anywhere from 80 to 100 active large-scale renovation projects in a tightly packed geographic area of Houston. At a time, we had 15 to 16 project managers that drove a white Crawford renovation truck around the marketplace for branding. We just completed in 2007 our first 10,000 square foot design build experience center. And that's where a client could come in and make all their selections and walk through vignettes. And it was a real turnkey package. Now, we built our business that fast, helping some of the top real estate agents in a very defined marketplace inside Houston sell houses to families that needed to be renovated. There were 3 agencies that sold real estate. At the time, it was about $3 billion a year, just residential real estate inside like the circumference the radius going from side to side maybe was 10 miles across.
Wow. Holy moly.
A lot of real estate.
Yeah.
But that was the center cut of Houston. And so we would help one of those agents inside one of those 3 big agencies. And I really kind of look at the agencies as 3 different sorority houses, using my college days as an analogy, because they all were different, because a lot of them are women. Okay. You think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real estate sold by women, and they're awesome. So, and they all have different personalities. Like, the Delta, the Tri-Delts could be this, and the Chios could be this, and the Alpha Chi's could be this. They all had different attitudes and flares about them. So we figured out how to help those agents sell a house that needs to be renovated to a family that was trying to really stretch to get into a neighborhood because of the school system.
Okay.
So let's just say, use the analogy, for $1 million, they could acquire a 1950 ranch style home that had 8-foot ceilings. Every inch of it needed to be renovated. Maybe we put a second story on it, add 2 bedrooms and a playroom upstairs with a Jack and Jill bathroom. But the agent, at the end of the day, all they really care about is just getting paid and moving on to the next client, because they get, when a house sells, they get paid, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to invite anybody into that transaction that's going to slow the transaction down from closing. So we developed a team and an approach to help that agent's client really see the vision. And it was called Illuminate the Possibilities of the House. So I would go in a white collar. Our design team would go in white collar shirts, and we would meet with the prospective buyer and their wife. And we would always make sure both parties were involved.
Okay.
In the agent. And I'd say, just wave your magic wand, guys. And we'll give you our vision for the house as well. And if the house had great bones, we would tell them that. If the house needed to be torn down, we'd let them know that. Hey, we don't believe the foundation can hold a second story. We had the experience to be able to tell that very quickly. But this is a great house. Let's build upon it, and let's wave the magic wand. So we could do that in an hour to 2 hours with the client and really understand what they want to do for the next 5, 10, 15 years with their family.
Okay.
We would go back to our office, and then we would get to work, roll our sleeves up, and we would draw blueprints, stick drawings. We would put together a scope of work. We would put together what we called an investment range. So let's go back to the $1 million acquisition analogy. That home needs top to bottom, second story. So now it's going to need $600,000 worth of renovation work, because we're going to peel the roof off, go from 8 feet to 10 feet ceilings downstairs, change all the walls out. We may even blow out a little bit for the master bathroom, master bedroom downstairs, put a second story on top of it. The investment's going to be between $580 to $650, in that range. We would go back to the client, and we would tell the client that, and the client would go, I don't have that kind of money. I can barely get together $200,000 for the down payment on $1 million house, which is 20%, right?
Yeah.
We say, don't worry about it. You need to meet the loan broker over here. So we pulled in a loan broker, and the loan broker then could do what they call a cost plus mortgage on it.
Okay.
So they would say, okay, the property is $1 million. The construction cost is going to be $600,000. So you need 20% of $1.6 million. So just rough numbers, $300,000. And they're like, well, we still don't have, $200,000 was a lot for us. We were pushing it. Where are we going to get the extra $100,000? Well, we would hand the blueprints, scope of work, the construction budget to a guy called an appraiser. They would go out and appraise the house as if all of the improvements have been done. And lo and behold, 9 times out of 10, that house would appraise, let's just say, $2 million.
Okay.
So guess what?
Got it. So they got their equity.
So they got their equity. They'd go to closing, zero down, out of pocket. They picked up $400,000 in value. We now have $600,000 in escrow that is at the bank. All we have to do as a bill company is go out and execute. The real estate agent, she wins because she gets her 6%, right?
Yeah.
The broker does, and she gets paid. It all happens within 30 to 45 days of us meeting the client from the very first time.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. So once that happened, it caught fire. We did that in 2001 with 1 or 2 agents. They'd go tell 2 friends, and they'd tell 2 friends. Next thing you know, we're being invited in to these real estate offices to do the pitch. at sales meeting.
Hmm.
Okay, ladies, here's how it works. Okay. How many of you have ever had a client that you've showed 100 houses to, and they all need to be renovated, but yet they don't have a clue on how to do it, how to finance it, to get it done?
Yeah.
And they all raise their hand.
Hmm.
How many of you guys want to get rid of those clients, close those deals, and move on to new deals? And they all raise their hand. So we provided a solution for them. For that, I won, I don't know if you can see it or not, my Inc. magazine, Inc. 500 fastest growing company.
Yeah. Wow.
Houston Business Journal. That's when I won the Entrepreneur of the Year award for Ernst & Young. So,
wow. Okay.
So then what happened?
Yeah, we forget about that.
Then what happened?
The little recession.
There's
when the credit markets froze, and yeah.
So that was really the impetus for me. I had to wind the company down because we lost our mechanism for cost plus loans.
Right. Yeah.
If the cost plus loan scenario had still been going, we'd have regional design centers, Atlanta. We already had multiple states to go to and multiple cities to go into that needed the same thing that we had here in Houston, that we could just systems, everything was in place.
So you were a true-blooded entrepreneur that created that business from scratch and scaled it to a massive degree.
It took me 3 years to wind it down because I think, again, we had 80 to 100 projects running.
Right. Huh.
When it hit the fan.
Yeah.
So we were throwing everything we could overboard to really cut down on our SG&A. And then I was running projects. I hadn't run a project in 5 years. And I was back driving a white truck, being a project manager.
Just making it work.
I think at the tail end, I was running 20 projects, which any productive project manager that provides a high level service where the average job size is $400,000 or greater, can only be leveraged basically on a 3-to-1.
Wow.
But we had to wind it down. We had to protect the little families that entrusted us with their homes. Some houses had no roofs on them. We had to get that finished.
Yeah.
So, I protected all of our relationships. We also had started doing spec homes at the time, and I think we had leveraged up to almost 20 million in debt with about 10 specs. They were at various stages of construction, and the spec value was anywhere from $1.5 million to $3 million in spec value per house. But we had to systematically complete those homes. We had to protect our banking relationships, our lending relationships, because I was personally guaranteed on all those notes.
Gotcha.
So we had one short sale out of those 10, and I think it was maybe $80,000 that I, had to come out of pocket to pay. We were very fortunate, but we were able to jettison all those and get them done, while other builders were just going out of business left and right and just screwing the banks. Now that's important that you know that, because that relationship, because I protected my banking relationships, that really allowed me to go into and scale the joints.
How so?
Because I was able to go back to the banking relationship, one of them that knew me very well, and he was a character lender instead of more of a balance sheet lender. He knew my character. He knew I was going to do everything I could do to protect the bank before putting myself first. He said, no problem. I'll finance these joint clinics all day long for you. You just bring me a deal.
Was he a regional local bank, or was it one of the big boys?
He was a community-owned bank. I think assets under $2 billion. They have been acquired now, and they're in a much larger banking system. But he still banks me today on some construction projects, much like he did back then, simply because I went up and beyond. I just took care of the relationships. Those guys believed in me to lend me the money, and I should pay every dime back.
Yeah.
And we did. So 2010 rolls around. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I think I'm 47, maybe 48, in that range. I got young kids at home. They got to go to college.
Yeah.
I'm practically broke now, trying to save the relationships and keep everyone whole, I go down to my last $200,000 in the world. I'm like, what am I going to do? That's when Steve said, hey, I'm going to go buy this little concept called the Joint Chiropractic, the chiropractic place. And I said, I don't want anything to do with that. Nah, I don't want to place my last chips on that.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, I'm in. And I got 3 locations. And it was like the guy at Vegas, turned the hat around backwards, put the sunglasses on, pushed all my chips into the middle of the table, stood up, and I was waiting on the river card to come down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It worked.
Well, what was it? Like, I mean, that's a tough spot to be in. Like, how did you make that decision to put the chips in the middle and go with the joint?
I knew entrepreneurially that I could make this work. Okay. I knew that I could build great internal systems because I'm an ops guy. I'm a systems guy. That's why we were able to scale the business at Crawford Innovation so quickly and methodically, because that's my skill set. That's my part of my gift. I knew I could make this work. And so we went to task and we started, we took the playbook that they had cobbled together at the joint and we just expanded on it. Put together a 2-week, 80-hour training program for our front desk staff to make sure they could move from, the 4 stages of competency of knowing, I know I'm not competent, all the way to being unconsciously competent. We had to move them through that whole process so that they could work the front desk and so they could really cater to the people when they walk in the front door, so that they could get someone who calls in on the telephone to make an appointment for that day. And we could get them in the system and we could relieve their pain. So I knew I could do that. And lo and behold, it all worked out. And here we are. And so if I told you the numbers, you wouldn't believe them. But I think I shared with you off camera what some of the numbers are. But, they're in the 7-figure range. And it is, it's something that just prints money. It works well. And I got really lucky.
Yeah. I mean, lucky, but you bet on yourself, to a certain extent, right? Like I
bet on myself and my wife.
Yeah.
Because Tamara, she's run all of the finance and accounting, all the back office. She's allowed me to do my deal. She stays in her lane. I stay in my lane. I can't do what she does in her lane, and she can't do what I do in my lane. So I'm more Mr. Outside operations face of the company. Tamara is comfortable being more behind the scenes at 11 o'clock at night doing books. Oh, I don't want to do that.
You guys are a good yin and yang.
Oh, we've worked together for a long time. Yeah. And then prior to Crawford Innovation, I was in the medical field and I sold physiological patient monitoring. The stuff that's on the bedside that you see where the little bleep going up and down and the little dings.
Yeah.
I sold that stuff. And my first job out of college was I sold the endoprosthesis, the hip, knee, and shoulder, the artificial knee and the artificial hip and the artificial shoulder. I sold that gear and the tools to implant that gear to orthopedic surgeons in surgery. So here's a guy that got a finance degree and that gets hired by an implant company who knows nothing about medical. Okay. But I spoke well and I could relate to people. And they said, okay, well, you're going to go into surgery. We're going to teach you sterile technique, how to get in and out of the OR. And we're going to teach you how to talk to surgeons. I said, okay, all right, I'll do that. And so I worked for a guy named Dr. Dickie Jones, and he was one of the top 5 implant guys in the country out of St. Paul Medical Center in Dallas, Texas. And Dickie did not speak to me for 6 months.
Why is that?
He would just look at me in the OR and kind of grunt, And then after treating me like crap for 6 months, he finally looked up, and I guess I made it. I passed the test of time. He looked at me and said, "Are you ready to learn now?" I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Dickie, I am. So he taught me the business of selling hips, knees, and joints to orthopedic guys. And he taught me
Hmm.
well. So I owe a lot to Dickie for taking time with me.
Yeah. Well, you seem like a learner too. I mean, you're willing to put the time in, dig in to learn new things,
Oh
in your
yeah. So
journey, right? I mean, you
it's a
went from the
journey.
medical field to the construction renovation field to the chiropractic field, and
Yeah.
that's a
So so
journey.
here, so here we are. So what's next? I don't know. We've got some other things that we're working on, launching a new franchise brand that's non-related to chiropractic. At 59, it's taken a long time to develop skill sets so I could be a well-rounded CEO. And I think I have those. And we've kind of passed the hat. We raised a couple of $1 million to build a prototype of a new brand. And then we're going to finance the rollout of the franchise concept using an RD approach, regional developer approach. And since we know where all those RDs live and work and what brands they serve, we now know how to go out and go find them, approach them. So our goal is to, in the next 3 to 5 years, have this brand go from 0 to 50 to 100 operating units open, with another 200 to 400 of RD licenses sold, get the thing into the public market, see if we can raise 50 million in that range, and then go open up a company-owned expansion as well, build out our management team. And at that point, I'll probably exit from a management perspective and let a professional guy who's experienced at taking an existing brand and really taking it from 500 units to 2,000 units. So that's the plan for now, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah,
So that's the next
the
chapter.
next chapter. Yeah, I was going to
And
say
that starts in
that's,
January.
Wow. Well, I'm fortunate to know what it is, but I'm not going to tell anybody because I know it's under wraps. But no, it's exciting stuff, and you have your story's amazing. You have a proven track record. Whatever you get involved with, you figure it out, make it
We figured it
successful.
out. I don't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I sent my kids to this school called Babson. You see it?
Yep.
So Babson is the number one for 26, 27 years in a row, the number one entrepreneurial focused school on the globe.
Huh. Okay.
It's in Boston.
College, university? Okay.
It's in Boston, Massachusetts, in a little town suburb called Wellesley, Mass. And the founders of Home Depot, they went there.
Huh.
The guy who invented Ring doorbell, he went there. So it really teaches one thing: entrepreneurial thought and action. And so when the EY deal came, Babson was a sponsor of it. So I'm like, what is Babson? Oh, Babson College. You mean there's actually a college out there that teaches entrepreneurial thought and action? I said, yeah. Well, my son was in 8th grade at the time, I believe, or 7th grade. You know how they write a letter to themselves: when I graduate from high school, here's what's going to happen to me, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
My son wrote a letter, and his school teacher at the time tracked me down. She gave it to me, and I opened it up, and he said, I will attend Babson College. I will play golf for Babson College. And he had a couple other things. Lo and behold, the kid played golf for Babson College, and he went there. He got in. And
Wow.
so
That's awesome.
it's kind of ingrained in my family, in our DNA.
Yeah.
We want to be entrepreneurs. We want to think like entrepreneurs. And my daughter, she was lucky enough to go there, and she ran track and field. She was a jumper for him as well, a high jumper. But she did incredibly well academically. My son went into iBanking, and now he is the CFO of a digital media consultancy out of Boston. And he is nomadic. So he has a computer and can go wherever he wants to. Last year, he got 100 days skiing in Colorado. This year,
as a CFO, huh?
Yep.
That's cool.
Amazing. And my daughter just graduated from Babson. And I think the primary reason she was hired by Ernst & Young in their business consulting practice was because she thinks like an entrepreneur. And they want the business consulting guys to think like entrepreneurs. And she's in a really cool space too. She's in what they call fintech, FIN. Are you familiar with fintech?
Yeah, because she's here in Charlotte, right? I think you shared that she moved to South End, and
she's in the South End. Yep. So she is working on helping businesses pivot. These are big businesses, pivot from old banking to things like Venmo, PayPal. Those are fintech companies. So she's just happy girl, using her entrepreneurial skills. So we've kind of taught that from the beginning with our kids.
Yeah, and showed them and exposed them to them through.
It's in our DNA, and it's also one last thing. I didn't know this, but my kids were at the right age. They were old enough to understand that Dad was going through a great loss with his business from Crawford renovation, having to shut it down. They saw that, and they saw the mental drain, and they saw the emotional toll that it took on me, and they saw my wife just pray over me every day that we can get to the other side of this. And then they saw the resiliency that we had coming out the other side. I never knew that when I was going through that. But those little eyes, they're watching. And it wasn't until my son was a sophomore, junior in college that he told me that. I almost broke down. And he goes, it's because of the resiliency. I mean, you taught us this. So I'm very fortunate to be in that position. Even though we go through some really deep, deep water sometimes, there are a lot of positive takeaways that we can have with that.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. We had life lessons that we were able to teach our kids through that we didn't actually know we were teaching them at the time.
Yeah, that's profound.
Here we are. We're living the dream. On Friday of this week, I leave town for 3 weeks. We're off to Amsterdam with my wife and another couple. And we get on a Viking River cruise and head south to Budapest for 2 weeks and then off to Prague. We just booked another trip for next year, summer of next year, for 2 weeks on Silver Sea with a couple other couples. We booked a round the world cruise that leaves January of 2024 for 5 months with the new gig that I'm taking on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're actually going to be able to do that.
Okay.
But it's still on the books.
Hey, earned it,
Here we are.
It. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, no, that's an amazing story you have. And that's quite the journey. But no, man, I appreciate you sharing it and coming on here. Thank you. You got some exciting stuff going on.
We do. So stay tuned. And as we launch the new brand, I'll come back to you and say, hey, here's what we're doing.
Yep. We'll have you back on.
We're still trying to, piece together the straw dog of it. We got a lot of it done. But now it's going to come down to execution. And I know we can execute.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Right.
And hey, you figure it out, right?
We'll figure it out. We always have.
Fantastic. Well, Ben, man, I've enjoyed getting to know you better, and thank you for coming on here and sharing your story with us.
You bet.
It's a good one.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too. That's a wrap. Hope you found a nugget or two in there that can help you on your franchise journey. And if you ever want to talk franchising, reach out to me anytime.